Hi guys, Ali Duzette here, and today we get to talk about the zombie apocalypse update. Okay, let us jump on in. Okay, so here we are. Way back on September 7th of 2021, I put up a video here on YouTube about the zombie apocalypse of 2022. And the recap of that video is that all of us personally and globally were going to have to face the skeletons in our closets during this year. And so this video is worth rewatching. But in the meantime, one thing that I did in that video was encourage people to set alarms for the week of August 9th, which is this week. And I did that because of the Mars-Uranus North Node conjunction, which actually took place on July 31st. But by August 9th, I figured we'd probably start seeing the ramifications of this placement. And here we are, we're here, and we have started to see the very beginnings of what is going on. So let's talk about it. On July 31st of 2022, Mars, Uranus, and the North Node went exact in Taurus. Mars deals with war, injury, accidents, fighting, and impulsive action. Uranus deals with surprises, catastrophes, and earthquakes. It also deals with revolutions. It was discovered as a planet in 1787, I believe, smack dabs between the American Revolution and the French Revolution. And so it's always been associated with revolution. The North Node deals with our destiny and like, where are we all heading? And then Taurus deals with stability, money, beauty, and all of our foundational everything. The land that we live on, okay? Everything that you feel like is stable in your life and the things that make your life stable all go with Taurus. And so what are we looking at? We're looking at the combined energy of these four concepts. That's just what this means. It means that we're going to look for situations that are going to probably surprisingly disrupt our stability and possibly could involve war, injury, accidents, fighting, impulsive action. And it's our destiny on a global level to be dealing with those things. And we're going to deal with them, again, personally and nationally and globally. This was a global energy. Everyone in the whole planet got to experience this conjunction, and we all got to see it on a personal level and on a global level. And I will say, this conjunction happened, and like in my own personal life, I was visiting my parents, and we had to that day kind of spontaneously decide to put our 17-year-old cat to sleep. Like it was a very tragic thing, but I just thought, oh my gosh, of course we have to do a surprise, like terrible decision that is like a little bit impulsive. Like she was literally dying, but just like, it's like, are we gonna find her under the stairs or something? Like, is she gonna crawl into a vent and die, or are we gonna go do the humane thing, and anyway, it was like our destiny to deal and make these decisions, and like a life or death decision. And I was like, of course it's happening on this day, like of course it's this day. So anyway, so what happened on July 31st, whatever was going on that day, that was going to be that first domino for a series of events that we don't know the exact events, but they're going to be affecting our overall stability. Our destiny as a planet is to have our stability affected by something unexpected and possibly impulsive, and it's going to have to do with all of these different flavors combined. And so what has happened since that time, which again is about 10 days ago. So since then, in the United States, we have seen a couple of big things take place. And I know that I have an international audience, and so I always want to mention that I'm looking at America's Pluto return because this is an unusual situation that most nations never see. Basically, America has been around long enough that Pluto has actually gone back to where it was when America took its first breath in 1776. And whenever Pluto returns to where it was originally in a chart, we usually see big wars. We see transitions in national leadership. Famine is very common. These are patterns that we've seen over and over in the past with other nations. But because it takes 244 years for Pluto to make this complete cycle, most nations don't exist for that long. So I've done other videos that explore that. Anyway, we're looking at this conjunction through the lens of the Pluto return. And it still affects the entire world because, you know, whatever happens to America, the entire world is going to be impacted by that. So these are just some things that everyone was talking about yesterday. You know, what they said, why did Ali tell us to set this alarm on August the 9th? Could it have anything to do with all of this stuff that just happened? Where on August 8th, Trump's residence was raided by the FBI. On August 7th, the Senate passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and all of that stuff is going on this week as far as like House approval and so on. Big stuff at the IRS. And those are just like the big three that came to my mind to kind of discuss right this minute. But also remember that there's bigger stuff than even this at play. Okay, and so we're going to talk more about that in a few minutes. But okay, this is the Inflation Reduction Act. This is not it. This is a tweet that I saw. The Inflation Reduction Act is supposed to lower prescription drug prices by basically making it easier. Well, I don't know. It's like very complicated, but okay, lowering prescription drug prices, lowering health insurance costs, cheaper, cleaner energy, and a fighting chance for our planet. And of course, this guy, where's the inflation reduction? And so I read a bunch of stuff, you know, earlier on before I made this, that was saying that the Inflation Reduction Act will actually increase inflation by like 0.5% over the next 10 years or something like that. So kind of a weird name for it. But all of this stuff, again, if you watched my July global update, you know, this focus on cheaper, cleaner energy has not really worked out really well for like Europe so far, or necessarily for us so far. There's just a lot of unintended consequences that can come out when we are meddling with all of these different kinds of things. So that is just something to keep our eye on as we're entering this energy crisis globally because of gas prices and, you know, the Nord Stream stuff in Europe. Again, go check out the July video, but we're just gonna have to see what is going on. Okay, so also, I believe it is linked to that act, but I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's in that act, that it approved a budget to hire 87,000 new IRS agents to conduct plenty of audits. This is a graph that I found about how many more audits there will be done every year with, under the Inflation Reduction Act. Okay, so we're looking at kind of a lot of that. And I don't know about you. Honestly, one of my big struggles with taking my business seriously was the issue of taxation because I was terrified of, I don't know, taxes, paying taxes, dealing with taxes. It all just seemed really scary. And I've like overcome that. But I think that there's a lot of us out there that when we think about the idea of being audited or being accused of tax crime or something, it makes your blood run cold, even if you're an honest person, because I think a lot of us have heard those horror stories of, you know, so what if you're an honest person? If you are chosen to be audited, it is still so annoying for your life. Like it is just such a huge stress for your life, even when you're innocent. And so anyways, so this is what we get to look forward to from this. I did see one person's comment, why couldn't they have hired like 87,000 tax preparation people that could have just like proactively prepared our taxes for us? There we go. The other thing that people are talking about with the IRS is that they've been ordering a ton of ammunition. Okay, and so I found this is like a fact checker website. I actually don't know what side of the aisle they're on. I didn't even know they existed until I made this, but we'll just look at it. It said, did the IRS buy approximately $700,000 worth of ammunition between March and June the 1st? Answer is true. Yes, they did. Okay, and who said that? The spokesperson for the IRS and the GAO. So reading this the first time, it made me feel better because I kind of skimmed it and I was like, oh, the IRS criminal division, the IRS criminal investigation division, they're the ones getting all of this ammunition. Okay, and they you know, my eyes kind of like skipped this and it's like, oh, they conduct the investigations into money laundering and cyber crimes and organized crime involving drugs and gangs. I was like, oh man, okay, you know, I guess that's legit. I mean, like, I guess I don't think I feel really great about the IRS being armed for any reason, but like if we're gonna be dealing with like, I just watched Reacher the other day, a heavily edited version of it on Amazon Prime. And man, I'm like, okay, I guess if they're working with those guys, then okay, fine, they can be armed. But this is what made me really pause. If we're going to lump in just tax violations along with organized crime involving drugs and gangs, that does make me nervous, actually. And so anyways, the IRS has bought tons of ammunition for lots of years, and this is not necessarily a super unusual year, but this is right now it's getting attention. That's really the difference, is that right now it's getting attention. Again, during 2011, the IRS actually spent over $1 million in ammunition. So even so, when you put it in the context of getting these 87,000 new IRS agents, and also we're going to have this like big budget to order a lot of ammunition, and also it's going to people that are going to investigate tax violations. Even if you are an honest person, which I know all of us on here are super duper honest, that can still be pretty nerve-wracking, especially because of all the new rules that say, you know, I don't know. Well, we'll talk about that later. Okay. So anyway, so this brings up some concerns about further weaponizing the federal government against everyday citizens. How are they going to be dealing with their idea of tax crime, right? Now we had this Trump raid that just happened within 24 hours of the date that I said to have everybody put in their phone. Like, what is this big destabilizing event? And like, here we have this Trump raid within 24 hours of the date that I asked you to put in your phone. Okay, so the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago on Monday. Sources say that they were not even, I mean, the attorneys were not even given a copy of the search warrant, which was flashed to them from 10 feet away. Like, is this true? Is this not true? I don't know. That's like what people are saying. Now, the important thing is not really exactly what happened. The important thing is that it's polarizing, okay? So in my Facebook group, I had some people talking about this, and it stirred up some political feelings, you know, of the people that are like, he had it coming, he's a criminal, and then the people that are like, no, he didn't, and he's not a criminal. Like, but the big thing here is that it doesn't matter. It really doesn't really matter, you know, whether he had it coming or not, whether this was a good thing or a bad thing or not. From like an objective standpoint, the point is that it happened, and it's polarizing. Like, basically this conversation in my Facebook group was like a microcosm of the real problem. The real problem isn't what Trump did or didn't do, or even what did or didn't actually happen, because guess what? I wasn't there, you weren't there. Like, we don't know what happened. The real problem is all of our assumptions about what happened, all of our emotions about what happened, that are motivating us to get ourselves mired in conflict with one another in defense of something or against something. That is the actual problem. Does this make sense? The real problem is the polarity of this, the polarizing nature of what has happened, more so than what actually happened. Because again, we don't even know. I threw this one in because I do find it really interesting that the guy who, you know, ordered the raid, who authorized the raid, was not a judge, but a magistrate who also was Epstein's lawyer. And so I have strong feelings about Jeffrey Epstein and that whole thing, but now is not the time. But I don't know. Of course, he's involved with this. I don't know. I was just like, of course. Okay. But again, the important thing is not whether or not Trump deserved whatever happened. The important thing is that whatever this action will lead to, this, you can kind of view this as like the domino, right? That first domino that's going to trigger a cascading event, okay? The important thing is that this event is bringing us all one step closer to destabilization because of the polarity on both sides. So one important reminder is just to just be conscious of this and remember that, I don't know, I've been reading some people that argue that the reason why this took place was really for the sake of polarization. And so I don't want to delve too deeply into that, but I do feel like there are people out there who really wish that we would all tear each other apart based on things like this. And it's up to us to be mature and to tune into ourselves and realize that you know, we have this opportunity to remain stable within our own hearts. Like, we don't have to be the people causing a storm on Facebook, right? Like, we don't have to be the people that are triggering more destabilization. Like, our job is to build our relationships with the people in our lives so that when other people lead to this big destabilization and this polarization, like, we are not the problem, we are the solution. And that we will have connections. I mean, our strong interpersonal connections, that is really, really critical. And I mean, of course, then we have to deal with the issue of, well, but what is right and what is wrong? Because there is a lot of strong feeling about, you know, how much um, should people take before they do something about it? On both sides of the aisle, they feel that way. Like, right? Like, everybody feels that way, and it's just our different perspectives. And that is important too. And I mean, we all have to decide how much we're willing to take before you do something about it. But I also strongly feel that, I don't know, whatever we can do to preserve peace in our personal hearts and in the hearts of those around us, not to be delusional about it, like, not to say, oh, it doesn't matter. This stuff does matter. And it's important to be informed about it to whatever extent it's important for us to be informed about it. And I think every single person is called to be at a different level of informed, you know? But we have a responsibility to maintain our own personal peace and to be conscious of the peace of those around us. And that's not to say we're responsible for their peace, you know, and it's not to say not to speak truth if it will ruffle some feathers. I think sometimes that is very important. But just remember that there's bigger stuff in play. Okay, let's talk about the Pluto return. America's Pluto return took place on February the 20th and of this year. And then the retrograde took place on July 11th. And so I'm going to start my video really fast and show you again when things go retrograde. I just put up a cool video on my Facebook group explaining how it works. But what it looks like from the Earth's perspective, it's like the planet goes like that, and then like that, and then like that, and keeps going. And there's astronomical reasons why this is true. But I don't want to get into that right now. Anyway, the point is, America had a Pluto return on February the 20th, but Pluto went retrograde, and so Pluto hit that same spot in the chart, 27 degrees and 33 minutes of Capricorn, again on July 11th. And then it was going to do it again on December the 28th. And so we're in the middle of the second Pluto return right now, that period from July 11th to December 28th. And so we had this big conjunction on July 31st of Mars, the North Node, and Uranus in Taurus. Okay, so whenever we have a retrograde return like this, where you have 3 returns, bam, 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 right in a row, it indicates that there's a big question that the native has to answer. And the native is the person whose chart it is, okay? So what is the question that we as a nation have to answer right now? Okay, and again, this is about America's Pluto return, which is all about America. What question does America need to answer right now? But again, whatever happens to America will affect the entire planet. So I've done a lot of videos about this, and I feel like one of the big questions that we need to answer right now is, are we a Christian nation? And to me, it kind of doesn't, I mean, whether or not you are Christian, personally, I feel like this is still something that is worth considering on a national level because of what happened in 1620. What happened in 1620? The Mayflower Pilgrims arrived and they signed the Mayflower Compact, which is when they made a covenant with God that this would be a Christian nation. And so, like, whether or not we believe in all of that, I mean, I really believe that contracts and covenants and deals, the agreements and contracts that we enter into with other people, and especially with our divine source, they matter a lot. And it's not easy to get out of those deals, And so here we have basically like the initial people that landed and kind of started America as we know it, from a religious perspective. They made this compact, and here we are now 400 years later. Of course, the 400th anniversary of this, we got to have, COVID and everything like that. And more videos are out about that I have done. But it's all tied together. So anyways, how does all of this play into that ultimate question of what is our relationship with our creator as a nation? Okay, so I want to give an example of what this Pluto retrograde return could look like, but in a microcosm of a single human being that I actually know in real life. So my friend recently had her Saturn return, and she had it right before Saturn went retrograde. So she ended up having 3 Saturn returns all in a single year. So when Saturn first hit, she got invited to look for new jobs by a headhunter who said, "Hey, I think you would be great at working for somebody else. I would like to help you apply for new jobs. I think you would be a perfect fit for my clients." So she said, "Yeah." And then when the second return hit, she got asked to interview for a bunch of new jobs. And so the first return, that first little section where Saturn went back to where it was when she was born, she got this invitation. She's starting to like think about, what would it be like if I got a new job? What would it be like if I interviewed at a bunch of places? And so she's starting to really think about these new possibilities. Then she gets her second Saturn return. And in that moment, she starts getting asked to interview for a bunch of new jobs. And so she starts flying all over the place and meeting with a bunch of people. And uh, the interview process is real, and she's starting to have to really, really decide, what does she actually want in her life? What does she really want? And then right around the time of her third and final Saturn return, then she heard back that she didn't get any of the jobs. And it kind of closed up that whole story. And so that whole story all took place within those 3 Saturn returns, from the first one to the third one. All of that happened within that short amount of time. So she didn't get the job, but she had learned a lot of lessons, and she really had a chance to evaluate her own internal decisions and thought processes and emotions and her relationship with her job. And Saturn actually is in charge of jobs, among other things. And so a lot of people experience job reevaluations during their Saturn returns, but a lot of times it looks really different because they just have one Saturn return. It doesn't go retrograde for them. For most people, they don't have a Saturn retrograde Saturn return. So this is one example of what it can look like when you have 3 Saturn returns, and now we're going through 3 Pluto returns. So we had this first Pluto return, and on the date of the first return, February the 20th of 2022, we saw the Russia-Ukraine conflict begin on the very date. In the following weeks, we saw massive gas price increases, we saw massive price hikes with food, and also with all of the other things that exist. And so in that time between February the 20th and July 11th, we just saw big stresses increase pretty steeply, nationally and globally, and also personally, right? Like kind of everywhere that you turn, stress has been increasing on pretty much all of the humans and all of the nations and the entire planet, and especially since February the 20th. So we just had our second Pluto return hit on July 11th. And then, 20 days later, 3 weeks or so, we have this conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node on July 31st. Okay. And so now we're starting to see the federal government taking massive polarizing action on climate change, healthcare, tax issues, and Trump. And of course, let's not forget COVID and monkeypox in the background, and a whole lot of other stuff going on. Like everywhere you look, there's a bunch of little crises going on that are all kind of adding up to be a much bigger crisis. I read a big thing this morning about the police shortages that have been happening. And it's really interesting because on the one side, you have people blaming COVID, and then on the other side, you have people blaming that all the, basically anti-police sentiment that is making it so people don't really want to be police officers. And then, there's these rises in crime, and basically we're getting like whacked from a lot of different angles right now. And is any one thing of this enough to take everybody down? Like, probably not, but we're just, what's the phrase? It's like death by a million paper cuts, right? But all of this crazy stuff is happening just in time for the midterm elections, right? They are just around the corner. And so a quick note about this, that I've been thinking about doing a whole video just about the midterm elections. but I'll just summarize my thoughts for now. A lot of people have their hopes loaded in the midterm elections, and I was one of those people, but um, I read a bunch of stuff, I considered a bunch of stuff, and I just left all of my thoughts feeling like perhaps it will not matter who wins, because even when, you know, I just don't know that there's enough good guys that are running, like truly good humans that are running, that even if they all got in, if all the people running that are truly good actually won, would there be enough of them to make a difference? I just don't know that. And I think the track record is pretty abysmal, for having I don't know how to put it, but my feeling is just at this time that it won't matter who wins. I am not sure that we will have a fair election. Not to say that it won't be fair, but just to say I am open to the possibility that it might not be. And I don't know. I just no longer have a lot of hope loaded in what is coming up. I'm not sure how much it can change anything that's already set to happen, right? Which isn't to say that our agency doesn't matter, because it does matter, and you should vote and you should do your research before you vote and all of that kind of stuff. But I also think that there's bigger stories in play right now. That's what I think. So also importantly, we have the Shemitah. The Shemitah cycle is ending on September 26th. Okay, so this is right around the corner. I mean, what is that? 6 weeks away, maybe 7 weeks away. So this is a big deal. Previous Shemitahs were linked to basically 9/11 and the economic crash of 2008. Those are two really big notable ones that are pretty recent. So it would not be surprising if we had some big economic upheaval specifically on that date or in the week before or after that date. So that is something to keep an eye on, and I need to make a whole video just about the Shemitah, but I had to mention it for just a minute. And as a reminder for anybody that doesn't know, the Shemitah is from the Jewish tradition. Every 7 years you'd have a Shemitah, and this is the year of forgiveness where all of the debts are wiped clean, which is kind of good. Everybody's set free. But what are they set free from? Are you being set free from your finances? Are you being set free from like your bad loans and like all of the stuff that isn't based in truth, as far as like all of these housing loans that were crazy? And I don't know. We're just gonna have to see. Sometimes it's not fun to be set free when you like, electricity and money and stuff like that. Okay, we're looking forward now to the third Pluto return. And this is happening in December, which is after the midterms are over and anything contested should hopefully be settled by that point, right? And this is the chart of this. So this will be the one that kind of pushes us forward into the next 12 years. As a reminder, if you haven't seen my other Pluto return videos, which I recommend watching if you are interested, the Pluto return is like the first domino, and then we have about 12 years of upheaval before it comes to a resolution. So what we're working with now is not a short-term energy. I saw somebody's meme today where they were like, the next 3 months are going to be rough, buckle up. And I just thought, oh, la, my dear, we've got 12 years ahead of us. But I think we do have about 12 years ahead of us, maybe 11 now, because, well, let's say 11 and a half. But this one is interesting, and I hadn't really taken a big, strong look at it yet, because I've been so busy with, the second one that we're living through right now. But this was notable to me that we're looking at Aquarius rising on this next and final Pluto return. And Aquarius is the sign, of revolution, right? It went with the French Revolution, it went with the American Revolution, and Aquarius is just, it wants the freedom to do what it wants. And so I don't know, this is a revolutionary energy. What does that mean? I don't know. Like, I don't want to say that it will exactly mean something, super specific. I don't know what it will mean. And, there's lots of different revolutions all the time. But I don't know. I somehow think that this will be more than just a revolution in the fashions that we choose to wear. I mean, like, it could be, but I don't know. Now this is Saturn at 22 degrees, right next to the ascendant at 23 degrees right there. This is so tight. And Saturn deals with your unhealed karma. Okay. And yes, I am a Christian. I yes use the word karma, but what that basically refers to is like the, I mean, from a Christian perspective, you could say the sins that haven't been repented for that you still have to pay for. Like if Jesus hasn't taken them over, then you've got to pay for it. Right. And so this is going to be, we got to pay the piper, right? Paying the piper time, it's upon us, and the fun begins in December. And in the meantime, going back to my friend's example, where she had that between the second and third Saturn return for her, she just had a bunch of little stuff pop up. She got to interview, right? She got to go on all these interviews and see what was a good fit. And I think we're entering that period right now between the second and third Pluto returns, where as a nation, we're going to see ourselves going on a lot of interviews. What do we really want here? What do we really want here? Giving a lot of people a lot of opportunities to actually show what they really want. And getting really clear on a national level where our overall trajectory is headed in the context of the Mayflower Compact. And I'll mention again that the Mayflower Compact was signed 400 years ago, and I didn't put it into a greater context when I mentioned that earlier, but of course, Moses, the slaves in Egypt, the Israelites were slaves in Egypt for exactly 400 years, right? And geez, I have another example of the 400-year thing that I always use, but I forgot it. It's in my other video, but 400 years is a big deal. Here we are, the 400 years, ticked off in 2020, and we had, 2020 through 2021, and now all of that was just the prelude for what began in February of 2022, and now here we are, and it's building up to this, and this itself is just another domino that's going to play into something even bigger than this, okay? So I wanted to give you a little quick preview about some other interesting energies that are going on right now. So first off, Pluto is moving into Aquarius on March 23rd of 2022. And whenever Pluto transits into a new sign, it just leads to a lot of upheaval. In addition to the Shemitah taking place in 2008, Pluto also moved into Capricorn during that time, and Capricorn governs the economy, and Pluto deals with death and rebirth. So we had a death and rebirth of the economy during that transition. And anytime, right now, Pluto's going to be moving out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. And so we can look at disruptions with the economy from Capricorn, but also technology because of Aquarius. So March 23rd, I don't know if I expect anything that day, but basically, when it comes to Pluto transitions, about 16 weeks to either side of it can, the flavors of this are going to start showing up. So we're going to start seeing the flavors of this energy in late November of 2022. It'll be kind of wrapped up in July of 2023, kind of, except for that Pluto's going retrograde again during that transition. And so we're going to be going from Aquarius into Capricorn and then back into Aquarius for 20 years. And that's all going to take place next year in 2023. Okay, we're going to be whacked with Aquarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. But Aquarius governs technology, electricity, the internet, and large groups of people. And Pluto is in charge of death and rebirth, and it prunes off what is dead in order to allow for new growth. So we are probably, my guess is going that, especially in the next 20 years in total, but also in the next 1 year from, probably January-ish of 2023 until the end of 2023, we're going to see some big shifts in technology stuff and also in, economic stuff. We may see big technological advances and also big technological devolution at the same time. So Pluto moving into Aquarius, a lot of astrologers are expecting things like big leaps with holograms, being able to present fake things and make them look real in real time, in real life, facial recognition tech, higher speed internet, and I said also lower speed internet because I do feel like Pluto, this transition may really stratify who has access to technology. And so we'll have to see. Pluto moving into Aquarius, we could probably expect stuff involving space. I watched a crazy interview the other night about a guy who does research on injuries, brain injuries from interacting with aliens. This is real. He's a professor at Stanford. It was like a crazy interview, guys. Um, and I loved it because I felt like he really handled it the way that I handle things, where he was like, look, I don't want to talk about aliens. I don't want to talk about all this weird stuff. I just want to talk about brain damage. And like, guess what? People are getting brain damaged when they are interacting with basically UFOs and like weird stuff like that. And here's all the scans. And he was just like the world's leading expert on brain scans. And so the military went to him to see what he had to say. And now he can talk about it. So, anyways, that was interesting. What will happen with Pluto into Aquarius? I don't know. Again, Aquarius governs revolutions. And I think we're going to see just a lot of unexpected events. And so, yeah, I feel like I want to talk about it for a minute. Aliens are so weird. I'm like not into that stuff. Okay, just for the record, like I waste approximately 0 brain cells thinking about aliens because not worth it, not worth my time. But I was intrigued by this interview that I watched, and when I was listening to it, and this professor was talking about the reports from his clients. Of course, they are brain damaged. So guess what? You never know. They're all, I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt, right? Brain damage. But the technology that they describe witnessing, and that now, you know, the military has been declassifying these photos and videos of this other technology, it just kind of got me thinking that I've kind of had these ideas of, you know, what might happen next. And it just really showed me like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. Like, I have no idea. And all of the stuff that I thought might be really hard, depending on how society shifts in the next, you know, 12 to 20 years, like it might not be, because maybe we will have access to technologies that we can't even imagine, and they will make our lives a lot easier. And I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm veering into very weird stuff. I know. I'm an astrologer. You came here listening expecting weird stuff, but I just got weirder. I just weirded out myself. So anyways, let's go back to Pluto. Okay. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was in 1787, of course, the year that the United States Constitution was ratified. It was there for, you know, about what was that? 11 years or something. Anyways, it was there for a while. And we saw the French Revolution. We saw Mary Wollstonecraft publish The Vindication of the Rights of Women, and we saw the Enlightenment. Okay, that's such like Pluto in Aquarius energy. We've got actual revolutions, we've got mental revolutions, revolutions in the rights of people. Yeah, lots of interesting stuff going on with that. And then, of course, we had these big inventions, right? We had in the invention realm, we had the steamboat, we had the guillotine, of course, and gas turbines and gas lighting, and the smallpox vaccine was invented at that time, which, regardless of how you feel about all of those things, it is undeniable that they have led to a lot of, you know, they've impacted humanity. All of those things have had a big impact, you know, certainly on individuals and many individuals, and, you know, the development of how our entire history has gone since that time. So my own guesses, okay, Pluto will be in Aquarius from March 2023 until June. So March, April, May, June. So we've got about 4 months. Then it's going to retrograde back through Capricorn. So we're going to see some more upheaval with economy and technology because of Capricorn and Aquarius. Then it's going to go back into Aquarius from January the 1st. That's an easy date to remember, 2024. It'll be there for 20 years without an interruption. In the next 20 years, the thing that has just kept on coming back to me is this kind of dichotomy vision of, like I wrote here in this PowerPoint, you might not have internet access, but someone might have access to a satellite that could identify your location from outer space, you know? And so I feel like that could be one flavor, like in the next 20 years. I am sure that in some parts of the globe that will be true. Not to say for everybody, but I'm sure just like now it is the case in, I don't know, like when I'm thinking of like the Middle East, where a lot of people are living in conditions that perhaps an American might consider primitive when it comes to technology, but there are also people out there that have very advanced technology, right? And so I think we might see more of a stratification of, who has technology, what technology do they have access to, and what does it enable them to do. Again, this outer space kind of weird stuff, it wouldn't surprise me. I could probably do a whole crazy pants video about that, even, but I don't know. I don't know. Okay. We're probably going to see big improvements in deceptive technology like deep fakes and holograms, where really the only way to know what is true is going to be your own connection with God and your own spirit of discernment. Like you are going to have to be truly in tune with your own intuition, the Holy Spirit, our Creator, in order to discern what is true and what is something that was created deceptively, using advanced technology. So, what are we supposed to do? I have been getting some questions like that in my Facebook group lately, where it's like, okay, things are getting real. So, what am I going to do? How am I going to feed my family? What if I lose my job? What's going to happen to me? And so, I think everybody on some level is feeling this because everybody, I mean, geez, I just got back from the grocery store, guys, and I paid like almost $5 for a box of butter that I'm used to paying what, $1.99 for, or like wait for it to be on sale for $1.78. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, but everybody, I mean, we all go to the grocery store and we see it. Okay. So people are feeling the pain. What do we need to do? My recommendation is to clean up our own hearts. Okay, we need to make sure that we don't have lingering issues that could come back to bite us. And what I mean by that is like basically our unresolved karma, right? Or like the unresolved, you could call it sins. If you have stolen from somebody in the past, this is the time to go and make it right. If you have lied to somebody, maybe now is the time to come clean, right? It's and I don't know, what I would really recommend is to take a full inventory of all the stuff that you've done in your life that you kind of wonder if maybe that was the bad choice, or if I did a bad choice. Write all of that stuff down. Take it to our divine creator and ask for, how are you going to resolve this? How are you going to take care of this to the point where you can cross it off your list and never worry about it again? And this is an exercise that I really started doing in earnest maybe 8 years ago or something. And it was life-changing then. And it continues to change my life as I remember things that I've done and try and resolve them. And as I live my life every day, really trying to make sure that I never have to resolve something in the future. We live in honesty now. We live in goodness now. But right now is the time to make sure that we don't have lingering issues that could come back to bite us. And the one thing about that is that I'm not just talking about coming back to bite us literally. It's not like I wronged that person and that person could come back and do something about it. The issue is not the specifics of what we did. The issue is the energetic disruption that it has played in our own soul. The issue is that those kinds of things have disrupted our own vibration. Okay, it has disrupted your own energetic functioning, your own spiritual functioning. And maybe you've heard of like the law of attraction, which is, whatever, it is what it is. And people have a lot of ideas about how that works, or how it doesn't work. But my understanding is that you receive in your life what you are. Life is a big mirror of what is going on in your own soul. And so whether or not you need to make things right with somebody because you're afraid of them getting back at you, that's not what it's about. The issue is clearing out the energy in your own soul, so that the fact that you stole that eraser that you thought was cool in fourth grade, so that the lingering disruption of that in your own energy field doesn't attract more negative energy to you, right? We go through and systematically dismantle and resolve all the bad stuff that we've done. And yes, it's a lifelong journey. Like, no, I'm not perfect at it. I am still working on it myself. But this is a critical piece of the puzzle. On a personal level, we need to resolve this stuff. You could say on a personal level, we need to repent. That's another way to put it. Okay. But I'm really being very practical about it. Okay. That's what we need to do. Assess, take action, fix it, and do it all hand in hand with our creator. We need to learn to fully trust on the divine for support and protection. And we need to learn to listen fully to our divine source for direction. And we need to learn how to listen to our own intuition. Worrying doesn't help. Freaking out doesn't help. What does help is staying calm and doing what we can to support our own nervous systems and listening for divine counsel. And as I'm speaking this out loud, I'm just hearing that line in my mind from the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. Can we develop the faith that we can say a prayer like that and say, give us this day our daily bread, and wake up and find the manna in the field, just like the Israelites? Can we have that kind of faith? And I will say, I do believe that we can. I really believe that all of us can, if that's what we want. Do you want that level of faith? What are you willing to do to obtain that level of faith? How far are you willing to go to clear out what doesn't belong in your system, right? And replace it with trust and listening and confidence in our Creator. How far are you willing to go to replace your system with all of that so that things can be good for you? I mean, even if things are hard on a societal level and even on a personal level, you personally can be taken care of. You really can. And I just really believe that. And before I even move on to the next slide, other things are coming into my mind, which is that story of some pioneers who were trekking west in the snow and they were starving, and somebody prayed, and all of a sudden there were just hot meat pies in the snow, and there was no explanation for how they got there, and they had enough food. You know, it's the Israelites in the wilderness getting their manna when they wake up in the morning. And I love this story from here in Utah, of this farmer. There was a big drought, and this one farmer's fields were always green and nobody else's were green, and the clouds would literally come and only water his crops. But every day he would pray, and he was the one that had the faith. I mean, like, that's what he said. And so I just think of those stories all the time, and I feel like for myself, no matter what happens, whatever happens, do I have the faith to pray and have a rainstorm only water my land? And I hope I do, I hope I do. That's what I'm working towards, and we can all work towards that. This is the scripture that came into my mind as I was creating this. Be still and know that I am God, Psalm 46:10. And I love this mantra made of it, where you just sit to yourself and you just kind of chant to yourself, be still. Be still and know. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know. Be still. Be. I love that. We are on the roller coaster right now, and it is in motion. We are on a ride for our greatest good, and it's a ride that we picked, and a ride that we trusted was for our greatest good. So we can get through this, and we will get through this. We get to take our deep breaths, meditate, and relax, and be still. Be still and know that I am God, right? Psalm 46. We can be still. Be still and know. And going back to that, I wanted to mention my book, Deep Past Resolution, because I really do believe that we chose to be here at this time. This is a book about pre-Earth life and how the decisions and experiences that we had in pre-Earth life affect us today. What were you up to before you were born? And how does that impact what you're up to today? How does that impact why you were born now? And what has already happened in your life and what is going to continue happening in your life? And so, geez, I mean, I could talk about that all day, but instead I wrote a book about it. So if you are seeking greater insights on your own personal life and what you might have done before you were born that's impacting you today, and I don't know, if you're looking for answers like that, I hope that you go check it out. My 30 Days of Belief Work books I created especially for all of this situation that's happening right now. And they're just little books that walk you through 30 days of belief work. You just follow the instructions. It takes you 5 minutes a day, and you can kind of reset your subconscious mind. And it's a really good companion to that idea of clearing out what doesn't belong in your space so that you stop attracting that negative stuff into your life, basically. And then we're doing a 40-day challenge right now in my Facebook group. And also the videos to get that started are here on here on YouTube. But we're meditating on a mantra that accepts the Lord as our support. It just says, "Oh Lord, you have become my support and my refuge. How great you are." And I love that. And so we're all just meditating on that for 40 days. And again, instructions are all in the Facebook group and here on YouTube. Um, and of course, I have to mention the sessions at allygazetclasses.com because those can really help you bust through a lot of blocks very quickly. And here's the thing about that. I have just always felt like my work was very urgent because it kind of doesn't matter. Like, again, going back to Pluto right here and this rising Aquarius. Okay. Rising Aquarius, it's a revolution. And I said it could just be a fashion revolution, but it really, I mean, guess what? It can refer to any kind of revolution. And we all have a lot of revolutions that are going on all the time, right? All of us, we always have something going on all the time. I just feel like all human suffering is always urgent. Hopefully what we're looking at, hopefully we've already been through the worst of whatever is coming and it's all up and up from here. And we will all win the lottery and be so happy and everything will be great for all of us. But even then, we need to be emotionally prepared to accept blessings, right? If a normal person wins the lottery, most people don't hold on to their lottery winnings. They don't spend them wisely because their energy fields are not ready. Their minds, their souls are not ready to experience a lot of blessings. And so to me, that's why it's so urgent to just work through your stuff because it's just always urgent. You just never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen tonight. So, and if you're suffering now, and if you have trauma in your heart now is the time to address it. Even if things are only set to be better for you tomorrow, are you ready to accept things being better for you? So anyway, that's all the stuff that I work with at allygazetclasses.com. If you're not in there, I recommend going in and getting set up in the free offerings and just starting to work through those because they will help your life and you'll be glad that you did it. So, okay, there we go. My best friends, thanks for watching. Man, I just kept on talking, but I have to go get my baked potatoes out of the oven for dinner. But thank you guys for being here and have faith and be happy. Okay, look, things are crazy, but we all have agency and we get to look at these things from a space of peace and confidence and trust in the divine. We get to be watchers of what is happening, observers. We are also participants, but what is going to be the nature of your participation? You get to choose that. And so for me, my participation, I'm an informer and a teacher and a helper, but in my regular life, I'm also just somebody that's trying to be happy, and trying to be there for my kids and read them stories and building up my own faith and trust because it's not fun to live in fear and terror all the time. We have to get out of that space. When you live in fear and terror, you draw horrible things to yourself. We get out of that space. We need to be living in trust and in peace. And when we do that, everything in the world just reinforces our trust and our peace. So hopefully you have a few things on your to-do list now that can help you get started onto that. If you're not feeling tons of peace, I hope you go back to my resources page and come and start that meditation challenge. Go read that book, come hang out in the free offerings on my website. We have a lot of work to do. It's really rewarding work. You feel better and better as you go through it. You start feeling peace and joy. We're on the roller coaster, but it doesn't have to be bad for you. It can be good for you. So thank you guys for being here. I'll see you later.